Hello, this is Orion here. I'm starting a series of podcasts that are about different railways that I enjoy, that I would love to visit sometime, stuff like that. And in these, I'm going to talk about the history of the railway and their engines and stuff like that. Okay. My first railway today is the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway in Cumbria. First, we're going to start out with a little overview of the history of the line. The Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway opened on May 24, 1875. Its purpose being to ferry iron ore from workings near Butte to the coast of Ravenglass. On November 20th, 1876, the first passengers were carried. Built to a gauge of 3 feet, or 910 millimeters, problems soon arose relating to the iron ore, and the line was declared bankrupt as early as 1877. The line finally closed in 1913. Unused for 2 years, in 1915, the miniature railway engineer W.J. Bassett Loke and his friend R. Proctor Mitchell, representing Narrow Gauge Railways Limited, acquired the line at a base for testing their little locomotives under fairly harsh operating conditions. By 1916, the re-gauged track, 15 inches, or 381 millimeters, ran as far as Urton Road, while during the following year, the miniature trains were running the full length of the line. Quarrying recommended on the line near Beckfoot and granite blocks were transported to Murthwaite, where they were crushed for use mainly as roadstone and railway ballast. By 1946, the ownership had transferred to the Keswick Granite Company, who decided in 1953 to cease quarrying operations. With the exception of the war years, passenger traffic continued throughout. However, in 1958 and again in 1959, the line and fittings were offered for sale, but without any serious potential purchaser, it was announced that the 1960 season would be the last. The railway was to be sold by auction in September. The Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway Preservation Society was formed by enthusiasts, but hopes were not high. Fortunately, 2 interested parties, Colin Gilbert, a Midland stockbroker, and Sir Wale Wakefield, a local landowner, stepped in on the day of the auction with a balance of the purchase price. In 1968, the railway moved on, becoming an integral part of the Wakefield family business in the Lake District. Much work had already been done to catch up with the backlog of maintenance. New coaches had been built, and the Preservation Society had funded the building of a new locomotive, the River Mite. Further major works continued. Ravenglass Station was remodeled, and a further locomotive, Northern Rock, was built in the company's workshops, entering service in 1976. In 2005, work started on the building of a new station and visitor center at the Dalegarth terminus. The building was officially opened by Pete Waterman in April 2007. The Preservation Society has recently funded a new diesel locomotive, the Douglas Ferreira. The story of the railway is outlined at the Railway Museum, situated in Ravenglass Station car park. Now, let's move on into information about each of the engines that run on the line. 4 steam locomotives are currently in regular service, ranging from River Urt, the oldest working 15-inch gauge locomotive in the world, to Northern Rock, one of the most powerful. The locomotives' names, with one obvious exception, are those of the local rivers, the Esk, Mite, and Urt, and the last mentioned flowing from Wastwater just a few miles away from the railway. Our first locomotive is River Urt. Built in 1894 as Muriel by Sir Arthur Heywood, the 082 locomotive worked at the Eaton Hall Railway at the turn of the 19th century. From there, it is believed it saw service at the munitions factory in Gretna, before arriving at Ravenglass in 1917. It was rebuilt in 1927 and renamed River Urt, becoming the mainstay of passenger operations. Its appearance was improved in the 1970s with the addition of a taller chimney, and its performance enhanced with a new, larger boiler. The tender was rebuilt in 2006. The second locomotive is River Esk. Designed by Henry Greenlee and built in 1923 by Davy Paxman of Colchester, this 282 locomotive was equally at home hauling trains of heavy stone or the increasingly busy passenger services. The valve gear was replaced in 1928, and for a brief period a steam tender was added. A new tender was added in 1970. For many years painted green, the loco is currently in black livery. The third locomotive is River Mite. Owned by the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway Preservation Society, River Mite, a 282 locomotive, was built by Clarksons of York in 1966, making use of the old steam tender from River Esk. Similar in appearance to River Esk, features such as the cab and running boards distinguish the two locos, although River Mite's distinctive Indian red livery from the old Furnace Railway is the greatest clue to its identity. The loco made history when it was hauled by traction engine from York to Ravenglass. The fourth locomotive is Northern Rock. Built in the workshops at Ravenglass to the design of the then chief engineer, Ian Smith, Northern Rock, a 262 locomotive, first saw service in 1976. So successful was the design that two further locomotives were commissioned for use in a tourist park in Japan. The loco has always carried the muscat green with red, dark green, and white lining of the Highland Railway. The railway is also home to additional locomotives which for varying reasons are not in regular service. Of these, Sonoda, built in 1912 by Bassett Luck, can usually be viewed in the museum. Essentially identical to the first 15-inch gauge locomotives that worked on the railway during and after the First World War, she was rescued from Bellevue Zoo in 1978, fully restored and painted in the livery of Narrow Gauge Railways Limited. Well, that's all from me for now. My next railway will be the Bluebell Railway. So, this is Orion A signing off. So long, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast on one of my favorite railways, the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway. Thanks, and have a great day from Orion A. Goodbye.